Early exchange was great to have your company. Useful information package for you in today's edition. I'm Blessing Aichi and
my name is Ayo Jimmy. Good to have you here. Society thrives on the wheels of business, economy, and development. And in all of this, you, our viewers out there, are major players because you are the ones that are facilitating the exchanges. This is Early Exchange from Souk News, and we'll say, welcome on board. It's a great day.
Now, if you follow the show, you will know that we start by updating you on current happenings around the globe. Ola Oluwa Awe is standing by to update you. Over to you, Ola.
Encouraged to come prepared to contribute to the discussion. And the Nigerian House of Representatives has called on the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to stop the implementation of the Customer Due Diligence Regulations 2023. The regulation mandates customers to provide their social media details, a policy that has been deemed unconstitutional as it violates Section 37 of the 1999 Constitution. The resolution was reached following a motion presented by Kelechi Nwogu, representing Rivers State, and 8 others during the plenary session. According to Nwogu, the directive by the CBN contradicts Section 37 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which guarantees the rights to privacy for citizens. It further emphasized that banks already have essential customer information such as names, telephone numbers, passport photographs, emails, national identification number (NIN), biometric verification number (BVN), and utility bills. He expressed concern that the directive would either force Nigerians who are not on social media to comply or exclude them from formal banking systems, leading to negative effects and implications. Away from that, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC) has revealed that only 53% of the available electricity capacity in the country is being used. The NEC's Vice Chairman and Commissioner Markets, Competition and Rates, Musili Oseni, made this disclosure during the NEC stakeholder workshop on the Constitutional Amendment and Electricity Act 2023. Mr. Oseni cited various challenges including gas supply, transmission and distribution constraints, as well as commercial issues as factors contributing to the underutilization of electricity capacity. He emphasized the need for collaborative efforts, load growth, quality improvements, customer satisfaction, and improved liquidity to support the growth and success of the electricity sector in Nigeria. By the way, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of NEC, Engineer Sanusi Garba, appreciated the transformative potential of the new Electricity Act signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in June. He added that the act will encourage private sector investment, promote renewable energy use, and empower states and individuals to participate in electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. Now, in an effort to eliminate building collapses within the state, the Lagos State government has joined forces with private sector professionals to ensure effective monitoring and control of construction activities. The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Physical Planning, Oluwole Shotere, who revealed this at a stakeholders meeting in Lagos, noted that the partnership would involve consulting firm or consortium comprising registered consultants from various fields such as builders, architects, town planners, geoscientists, and engineers. According to him, a certified accreditor program has been introduced as a means for the state to engage private sector professionals as stakeholders in the regulating of the building environment. These professionals, referred to as certified accreditors, will play a crucial role in the regulatory process. Similarly, the General Manager of the Lagos State Building Control Agency, LASCA, Bolaoki, encouraged the professionals in the building environment to embrace these initiatives as a collaborative effort to enhance participation and safeguard the integrity of the sector. And the National Examinations Council, NECO, has announced the publication of the results of the 2023 National Common Entrance Examination, NCEE, which determines admission into 110 federal government colleges called Unity Schools situated across the country. The Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education, David Adejo, after receiving the results from the Registrar of NECO, Ibrahim Bushishi, said there were a total of 72,865 pupil registrations, an increase compared to 71,738 registrations last year. Notably, Lagos State recorded the highest number of registrations with 18,644, while Taraba State had the lowest with just 102. Progress is being made in bridging the gender parity, as indicated by the distribution of registered pupils. Out of the total, 38,801 were females, while 34,064 were males. In the examinations, 69,829 pupils participated, and amongst them, 76 pupils achieved the highest score of 203, while the lowest score of 1 was obtained by 6 pupils. Regarding the selection of qualified candidates for admission into federal unity colleges, the admission criteria remain consistent according to officials. This includes 60% merit-based selection, 30% consideration for equality among states, and 10% accommodation for exigencies. The Permanent Secretary emphasized that the Federal Ministry of Education is committed to ensuring the timely and proper completion of all admission processes in accordance with the mentioned criteria. Now, the Kano State government has disbursed a sum of over 1.5 billion naira to cover the National Examination Council NECO registration fees for 57,000 secondary school students. This announcement was made by Aminu Abdulsalam Gwazo, the Deputy Governor of the state, during his visit to Rumfa College in Kano. While monitoring the start of the 2023 NECO examination, Gwazo reiterated the administration's commitment to the development of the education sector for the socio-economic advancement of the citizens, and added that education serves as the foundation for meaningful progress in the society. According to the Commissioner for Education of Kano State, Umar Haruna Dugua, the Ministry of Education has established committees to assess boarding schools that were previously closed during the former tenure, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje, with the intention of reopening them. And away from Nigeria, Uganda's parliament has approved a new tax law that imposes a 5% income levy on foreign providers of digital communication services such as Facebook and Twitter. The move aims to tap into the growing digital economy to generate revenue for the country's increasing public debt. According to a Twitter post by the Ugandan parliament, the law, named the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2023, includes the new levy on non-resident providers of digital services in Uganda, including Amazon and Netflix. Critics, including opposition lawmakers and rights advocates, have expressed concerns about the bill. They fear that social media companies may start charging Ugandans for services that are currently free. While the parliament believe that the levy is a means to restrict access to certain social platforms, they say the tax is not a social media tax and will not impact ordinary Ugandans. The Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi is in Kenya for a visit as part of his three-country tour to Africa. The visit, seen as a new beginning in Iran's relations with the continent, aims to diversify economic ties amid crippling sanctions imposed by the United States. Raice's trip to Africa also includes Uganda and Zimbabwe, but it marks the first visit by an Iranian president to the continent in over 10 years. The delay in the trip was attributed to the finalization of Memorandum of Understanding, which Raisi and Ruto were set to sign. During the visit, Iranian and Kenyan ministers signed 5 Memorandum of Understanding covering areas such as information technology, fisheries, livestock products, and investment promotion. According to Iran's foreign ministry, the trade with African countries will surpass $2 billion this year, reflecting the country's growing engagement with developing world countries in the face of U.S. sanctions. Raisi's Africa tour follows his visit to Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua earlier in June, aiming to solidify support among countries facing similar United States sanctions. Now, United States President Joe Biden has recorded an approval rating of 40%, a slight decrease from the previous month's rating of 41%, amidst ongoing economic concerns. A recent 3-day online poll conducted by Reuters and Ipsos to gauge public sentiment on Biden's presidency shed more light on the top concerns of respondents. While 21% expressed worries about the economy, it is noteworthy that a majority of participants did not cite economy as their primary concern. Additionally, just 15% voiced concerns regarding crime or corruption. But comparatively, Biden's rating is better than his immediate predecessor, Donald Trump's final approval rate of 36. It is not as high as 59, the approval rate of former President Barack Obama and Republican George W. Bush's 56, reflecting the sentiment of a significant portion of the American population to the economy. This is despite that inflation eased to 4% in May 2023 from April 4.9%, marking the lowest rate since March 2021. This decline was primarily driven by slower price increases in housing, food, and transportation. However, inflation remains above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. Now, China's major technology companies have seen their market value fall by over $1 trillion since the government initiated a regulatory crackdown on the sector more than 2 years ago. However, investors are hopeful that the strict rules, which have hindered growth since late 2020, might begin to ease following the indications from the People's Bank of China, PBOC, that a change in direction could be on the horizon. The PBOC stated that most financial issues faced by platform companies had been addressed, and regulators would now focus on the industry as a whole rather than specific companies. The regulatory crackdown began with the shelving of Alibaba affiliate Ant Group's $37 billion IPO in November 2020, which has since resulted in a combined market capitalization loss of around $1.1 trillion for Alibaba Group. Tencent, Meituan, Beidou Inc. and JD.com as listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And with that, we wrap up today's news update. Thank you for watching. Tune in tomorrow as we bring you the most recent news and stories of importance. Follow us on social media for more news and stay tuned to Early Exchange. I am Olaoluwawe. Thank you.
Thank you for staying tuned to Earliest Change on Souk News, and thank you, Olaoluwa, for the updates in the world of news. A blessing, a number of issues came to the front.
Of course, different issues. I'm even wondering where to pick from because they're quite interesting, all of them. But I think we can begin from the issue of President Bola Ahmed requesting for an amendment to the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act to enable the federal government source 500 billion naira from the 819.5 billion naira supplementary appropriation to provide palliatives and cushion the impact of fuel subsidy removal.
Nigerians have been waiting for this because when you take away an element of comfort in a particular context, then you must cushion it. Yeah, we all agree that the removal of fuel subsidy is what is meant to be done. It was long overdue, and it came. It's an economic imperative, like they say in economic parlance. But now, it's cheering to know that the government is thinking about its people and looking for how to source money for the palliative to cushion the effects.
Yeah, but the issue is now they're looking in that direction. To whom will palliatives be provided for, and in what form will the palliatives come?
Perhaps Idahosa or Zamanze can answer that. He looks presidential anyway, so Idahosa, welcome on board. Okay, Idahosa or Zamanze is the Director of Policy Research and Development, Africa Development Studies Center, which is a training and research-based organization with over 2 decades in human capital development and public policy research for sub-Saharan Africa. And it is interesting to know that they have presence in Nigeria, Ghana, USA, Kenya, and South Africa. So we have with us a big man. Yeah, okay. So let me ask you, to whom will these palliatives be given, like blessing us?
Well, I am not in the President's kitchen cabinet, so I won't know what the details are on this request for the environment of the supplementary that was presented by the previous administration, because of course you have had this argument all over since the removal of the subsidy regime, that a lot of people said, oh, there was a provision, a certain borrowing of about $800 million that was meant to provide palliatives to for Nigeria. But the real question to ask is, we're wondering what will this palliative look like? And I do hope that we're going to invest this money on social programs and not necessarily handouts to people. Because 500 billion look very big. For a population of about 100 million that are poor people, if you take 10,000 for everybody, that palliative can last for 2 months.
I doubt it would even last beyond 1 week, depending on the number of persons in each household.
So if you're going to give everybody 10,000, so how does that cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy that is going to be internal? And are we going to be paying this continuously? Okay. And I think the route to go is for government to be thinking of what to do. How do we cushion effect? More investment in public infrastructure, public transportation, that will reduce what people are spending on transportation. We want to see more railway built that move people from place to place at reduced cost and, of course, with good speed. Mass transit bus systems that can commute people from city to city and go into work daily. Investment in healthcare and all these things. I think that's what government should be thinking, but giving a handout to people really would not be sustainable in the long run.
Okay, for some people, the cushioning doesn't have to be in the context of transportation, because all you've said so far literally speaks to cushioning the effects of fuel subsidy removal on transportation. Some are saying that, okay, maybe if we're able to determine the critical people that need these cash handouts, because food is expensive now, as in the food items are more expensive than they used to be in the past. Yes, we understand that the bulk of our daily expenses goes to transportation for those of us who commute from our homes to our offices. But then, transportation is not the only
yeah, but it's a very critical element in this conversation. The reason is because transport cost has increased, and of course salaries are not going to increase in the immediate, because the increment in salary for public and private sector workers had to be based on ability to generate profits. Now, if companies are not making profit and they are increasing salary for people to be able to cushion the effect of the transportation, don't forget that transportation and logistics is critical even to the value and cost of food. What people are charging is because of the cost of bringing food, and that's why we read the other time Governor Zulum in Borno State has to make provision for some pickups and Hilux buses to help bring goods out of the farm to the cities, so that at least that can also aid the reduction in the price of goods and services. So this is what it is. It's critical element, because if people have good transport system, so rather than burn fuel of 12,000 to commute every week, they can reduce it by good public service to 4,000. And this will reduce how much you're spending daily. And then, of course, we not eat too deep into the disposable income in the hands of every average worker. But my point is actually that if you're going to be looking at people to say you want to hand out something to them, the question is, how can you sustain this handout? Okay. Like the Chinese proverb says, rather than give people fish, teach them how to fish.
Yes, I quite agree with that, because even if it's 20,000 naira, it will not go a long way. And like you just mentioned about transportation, a lot of companies now, and even government organizations, have reduced the number of working days, which will affect productivity, because I agree that the hybrid system is currently practiced globally, but given our peculiarities, that would not really work for certain sectors. So it will go a great deal. I also hope that the government can come up with a creative way to also look at those who use petrol for production, not for transportation, like the small businesses who fail, their generators and all would fail. Now, moving away from that to another issue, as the Nigerian House of Representatives, National Assembly, has called on the Central Bank of Nigeria to stop the implementation of the Customer Due Diligence Regulations 2023, which has added the inclusion of social media handles as part of the requirements for the Know Your Customer. Now, usually people would provide utility bill when you want to open an account. You will provide, if you run an account, you provide your BVN and your national identity number. Now, in addition to that, you will also have to provide your social media handles. This, the House of Representatives are kicked against.
I like the emphasis you put on stop, because when you were reading, you put, even though in the text there was no emphasis there, but I think you had to do that, because before the House of Reps members pushed this particular agenda, we floor members here in our own constituency have said it's a policy that will not work, because two main issues there. There are unbanked
population, yes.
There are people who don't use social media, not because they don't want to, maybe they don't just see the need for them, because if the essence of a thing is not known, abuse becomes inevitable. You can't push to me what I really feel I don't need. And then the issue of privacy of information came into play. So I am sure that even if the banks were not listening, if the CBN was not listening to some of us here, then maybe they would, listen to the House of Representatives. How was your take on that?
Well, I think there are more very important issues that the House of Representatives must be concerned about at this moment. There are more pressing issues that faces us as a people, and not these trivias. Why do I call it trivia? If you are having to do business in the public space, you see, there's know your customer things you have to do, your KYC. The banks are commercial banks. They are not private banks. And if you are going to update your profile with the banks, ordinarily, in opening your bank account, your name is required, your house address is required, the evidence that you live in that house address is required, your email address is required. Now, this were before we had social media. Really, what is the issue here? The issue here is the issue of transparency of people who deal with customers. Yesterday, you were having this conversation about people who take loan and they run away,
Yes.
and the bank can't recover those loans. Microfinances are giving loans to individuals, and the individual run away because they don't know them. Now, even in recruitment today, globally, the first thing that a recruiter will ask you to do is to submit your handle, so that they can also see your presence online to see if you are real or you are not real. Why are Nigerians afraid to show their social media, that people should know who they are?
But that,
really, in essence. So what privacy is in social media? That is the question. Your name is on the Facebook. Your details are on the Facebook. Everybody is seeing it globally. How does it become a problem if you have to submit it so that the bank can look at you and see whether you are a real person or you are not genuine? Because you are seeing multiple identification in Nigeria. We have said it on this studio before. Some people who have BVN and NIN, and they are having two separate accounts with two separate names, and we have not been able to sync our data. So if we must be able to guarantee trust and transparency within our banking space, the bank should do a lot of due diligence to know who their customers are and those who they will have to give service loan. So I don't think this is a major thing that should really draw national attention on the floor of the National Assembly.
But the social media space, if we talk about people having double identities, that is a place where people have even more than double identities.
Multiple identities.
For people having accounts on Facebook, they don't really have to put in their real names. And so there's a lot of fake information out there.
This is where it is important to the commercial bank. If you are not a real person on social media, then they should not deal with you.
But
if your social media name and handle is different from your name, your email, and things that identify you, it means you are not real.
Oh, I beg to disagree.
Not
because
necessarily.
okay, I have a social media account, personal, that I use.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to do some other things, not undercover activities, for legitimate reasons. And you may not want to use your real name on that account. Let's
what is legitimate?
Hold on. Okay. Facebook or any other social media handle there has not said you cannot have more than one account.
And then you must.
But you cannot use your full names on two accounts. Now, but there are times when you need a second account for some other reasons apart from the one you personally interface with. Now, if I so choose to use that, it is not a crime. It doesn't mean having multiple IDs on social media makes me a criminal. Now, that's one part of the discussion. Another part of this is the issue of talents.
Okay.
People are saying, if I have given you one talent and you have not been very judicious with the use, and I can't see what you have done with that one talent, why must I give you two talents? Let's talk about data. The banks don't necessarily need our social media handles to know who we are. They have more valid means of IDs. We have our BVN, we have our NIN. If you
bill,
they are
also
there.
have the Nigerian Financial Intelligence.
Let me tell you, for all you can. Okay.
You see, the real issue is in crime fighting, profiling is critical. In crime fighting globally, FBI profiles. Any organization that wants to deal with crime must profile people. And part of the profiling is what we're talking about. So you can't just say, oh, because you have BVN. I just mentioned to you now, you see, the inability of Nigerians to even identify themselves. I think what should be of utmost concern to the House of Representatives is to see how we can complete our national identification project that has been in place since 2013, that Nigerians have not been fully identified. This should be of more concern to them than bank asking their customer for profiles.
Doesn't that suggest that in all we've been doing to try to gather intelligence about people with the national identity number, with the BVN, with even utility bill is not working? Because if now we're needing social media to really follow up on people's activities or know them very well, What is the assurance that this will prove any results?
You know, it will sure prove. You see, some years ago, I took my son to one of my friends, and we sat down, and he said to him, and I said, oh boy, you're in the university, and I think you understand that you are going into a new terrain and a new environment. That if you're going to look for a job, please beware what you put out on your handles, because it will work against you very soon. You see, because in the psychology of human management, you must understand these things. And this is what the CBN is trying to do, to ensure that people with multiple identity, you see, if I want to give you a loan, for example, what will I be looking out for? I will look at what you're doing on your social media handle. You remember this Hush Puppy guy? How was he seen? His flamboyance on social media. That was what the FBI was following. And they had to track him down. Now, what is really critical here is that a lot of people are on social media. You see, if I can view your page, which of course a lot of people are even paying money, they call it sponsor ad, to get people to come to their pages to view it. How does this become private in line with Section 37 of the Nigerian Constitution? Because social media is not a privacy thing. Social media is a public domain where everybody view you, and you want people to see you. You will even pay money for people to see you.
Well,
so why does it become a problem?
That is not very correct in absolute terms, because there are private settings you can put there that only those who you want to see you can see you on every social media platform that you have.
Okay.
Now, that is one thing. If I buy your arguments that they want to be able to profile me to know who I am, does that not suggest that I can be intentional now, knowing full well that the banks are watching me and I have an agenda that is not known to them? It's a matter of, in 6 months, let me tell you, I can create a consistency in my posting and in my digital footprint that I will fool even the bank system. No system is fail safe. That's the point here.
You know, internet does not lie, remembers.
It does not lie.
It remembers. Even the things you've done when you were unaware, internet will remind you.
But
after some day.
But
so,
also,
you see, the real issue here is the fact that, see, this is it. It's just psychological. Let's do profiling of people. Let's know who people are. Let people be real, be their real self. Let's guarantee truth in our environment, integrity. You see, because the biggest problem we have as a country is trust deficit. This is a real issue. People, you give them money, they throw away their SIM card. They go and buy a new SIM card. And bank can't trace them. So this is what the real issues are. We are having a lot of people who have problems within the system. And so the banking risk is so high. How do we mitigate the risk in terms of lending? Because the real work of a commercial bank is to give money to people. So if I'm going to give money to you, I should know you. What's privacy if somebody wants to come and do business and transaction with me?
Okay, as we turn over to another matter, the worry too is about those who are not on social media. You have some persons who are elderly, or some persons who, for reasons best known to them,
yeah, but they are not saying
they
didn't say that everybody must present it. They just say add it to the profile. So you have a column, as you fill your name, fill your this. If you have a handle, you fill it, and if you don't have, then of course it can be blank, and that will not stop the bank from doing business with you, really.
Okay, in that case, I think a lot of persons would not even feel that.
Well, if it is optional, I can guarantee you
it's optional.
A lot of people
Persons
will
not
not
feel
do
that.
Okay, so that is it on that particular segment of the show. We take a very short break now, and when we come back, we will look into some other issues that matter to you and to us here. Don't go anywhere.
In today's rapidly evolving world, it is crucial to unravel the profound impact of e-commerce on local businesses. As online shopping continues to soar in popularity, traditional brick-and-mortar stores are confronting new and unprecedented challenges. Our explorations aims to uncover the shifting consumer behavior and the far-reaching implication for local businesses within our community. As we delve into the changing landscape of consumer habits, it becomes evident that the survival and retention of customers for physical shops is a topic of great interest. To gain insight, we turn to the experiences and perspectives of our respondents. The rise of e-commerce has brought undeniable advantages, leading us to explore how local businesses are adapting to this transformative shift. A core question revolves around people's shopping habits and a notable surge in online purchases. This change in consumer behavior prompts reflection on the factors driving the inclination towards the convenience and accessibility of e-commerce platforms. Respondents paint a vivid picture of the advantages of online shopping, highlighting the ability to save time, access to a wide range of products, and easily compare prices. The convenience of doorstep deliveries and the flexibility to shop anytime are features that draw customers in.
What you want, and ease of getting it as well, you understand, because most of these vendors, they also give you opportunity of delivering it with ease to your place, you understand, so you don't have to break a sweat to get what you want, you understand, so that's just it.
I'd say it has made life easier for people in a way, because the stress of going to get things yourself has been reduced. The stress of having to, go through traffic to get some things done has been reduced, and that has actually been helpful, and it has gone a long way to help and assist people.
Running all the way to outside, let's say Oshodi or those places there, I can easily order what I want online, and I think that is quite easier for me because I'm a very busy person. Like, I do my work most of the time at home. E-commerce has made it quite easy for us in this present time.
However, amidst these advantages, concerns were raised about the potential adverse effect on local businesses. The disadvantages and challenges associated with the growing popularity of e-commerce take center stage as increased competition, reduced foot traffic, and the potential closure of traditional brick-and-mortar stores stand out among other factors. Their insights provide a glimpse into the struggles faced by local businesses as they navigate changing customer preferences and the dominance of their online market.
So I always pay on delivery, you understand, just to be on the safety side, because some of these vendors can be dubious, they could be very smart. Some will tell you pay 50% and they'll get. So I always decline, I always let them know, okay, even the delivery fee I'm going to pay when you bring it.
A lot. I mean, you buy something, what you ordered versus what you got, so that's a big problem. The attitude of the sellers too, most of the time when you interact with them, it's like, most of the time you hear this problem of when the rider has picked up the dispatcher, it's like it's no longer their business. They don't care about your order again.
The sentiments surrounding personal connection and community engagement in the shopping experience are unearthed. It is important to express the desire for the sense of community fostered by physical stores, face-to-face interactions, personalized recommendations, and support for local entrepreneurs. Perhaps online shops can fully replicate this aspect. What is the role of local government in supporting and promoting local businesses in the face of e-commerce growth?
Local government doesn't really have a major role in the sense that because the local market we have these days, it's like people, I just feel like it's a personal thing because people recently don't really want to go out. They feel like they can be in their comfort zone to get anything they want. So I feel like that's why, and I feel like those local people, if they can be creative as well to join the businesses online, I feel like they will do better.
Initiatives such as financial assistance, impactful marketing campaigns, promoting local shopping, and partnership between local businesses and e-commerce platforms are proposed to strengthen their digital presence. Grace Komolafe, Souk News.
Thanks for staying tuned to Early Exchange on Sook News. Now let's turn to e-commerce, which we can also call online commerce. Now, e-commerce has experienced significant growth in Nigeria, strengthened by the fast-growing youth population in Nigeria. The e-commerce market in Nigeria is the 40th largest in the world, and it is predicted that a revenue of $6.6 billion will come from that market in Nigeria by the end of 2023, placing it ahead of Egypt. Now, for a sector that is fast growing and also yielding so much revenue, there are some critical issues with it, and then there are also aspects of it that present opportunities that need to be tapped into by everyone who wants to make good money legitimately in this time and in this age.
There is a joke out there that before now, e-commerce was spelled with small letter E. But now,
it has grown.
Capital letter E,
in
bold letters.
Yes.
Because you don't want to talk about the number of young people that this new line of business has employed. You ask this one, what do you do? I'm trading. Where? E-commerce. I'm into drop shipping. I'm into this and that. And it is noteworthy that these are people that ordinarily will be idle, and when you are idle, your hands might be engaged by something not so pleasant.
Yes.
But today, e-commerce has made it possible for a lot of people to find means of livelihood. Beyond even means of livelihood, we have influencers in the e-commerce space, we have young people, even the not so young people are into it. For as long as you can use your phone that has an active internet, you are in business. Now, what it has done essentially is to shorten the value chain or the supply chain from the producer to the final consumer, and introducing new middlemen that were either to not existing. You no longer have to go to a retail shop to get your items. E-commerce can bring it to your doorstep at little stress.
It also opened consumers to a wide range of products from different locations. Now, before e-commerce came on, you had to maybe travel to other places, or you would need, if you need something, a good that you can only get outside Nigeria. Maybe if you're lucky, you have someone who's coming into the country, you could call and say, help me get this, help me get that. But with e-commerce, from the comfort of wherever you are, you can just have access to different kinds of goods. And then it's also saves cost, because some persons would need a shop to operate. But with e-commerce, some persons tell you, oh, I'm in business, and you ask, where is your shop? They tell you, I do not have a shop. Just go to my page on social media and make your order there. You get whatever you want. So it's a very nice thing that has happened to the Nigerian economy. But like we mentioned, there are some issues with it, talking about infrastructure, and that's, I mean, the internet infrastructure to support this system.
And so, to discuss some of these issues and probably find a way out so that we can have a better e-commerce solution in Nigeria, we have two people who are standing by on Zoom to have this conversation with us. One of them is Mr. Onoche Melvin Echechukuma. He is the manager, e-commerce operations and commercial planning for Konga. And the other is...
well, yes, we also have Dakpo Babajide, who's a chartered accountant and a co-founder of Price OK Marketplace and Shopping. He's also the CEO, Cartons Producers Nigeria. They were speaking to us on the challenges with infrastructure, payment system to provide, to support this market, and several other things. So
let's confirm first and foremost if they can actually hear us. Gentlemen, I want to say welcome to Early Exchange on Sook News, and thank you for heeding our call. Please confirm to us that you can see and hear us clearly.
Yeah, thank you. We can hear you very well.
Thank you very much. We can hear you.
Okay.
And see you clearly.
Okay, we can hear you very well.
Yeah, same. I can also hear you quite well.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're still having some challenges there, we will resolve it very soon and come back to you. Okay, part of the issues with e-commerce from our own little research is the fact that the rural areas are not fully covered. Accessibility is one of it, and the infrastructure of internet which is the essential driver of e-commerce, is not there.
Even electricity.
Yes, so it's one of the issues that people talk about. Then even the payment platforms.
Yes.
Of course, I must say that Nigeria is improving when it comes to payment platforms. We have our own. Before now, people had to rely on foreign, e-payment platforms to transact, and the issue of naira dollar or naira pound
currency with which you can make payments.
But now we have our own homegrown, e-payment platforms, and they are increasing in number. Young people are doing amazingly well in this particular regard. But then we still have a lot of unbanked Nigerians. We still have a lot of illiteracy, because there is a measure of literacy, of digital literacy, that you need to be able to plug into the possibilities of e-commerce.
True. Yes, and that's why some persons have become like third-party agent here, because they know what other persons want, so they just show to you the different products available. You tell them what you want, you give them the money, either you make a transfer, and then they do the payments for you. So it has actually created opportunities for a lot of persons. Now, actually, where there are loopholes, where with areas we have challenges, in some way, it has opened a door for some other people. That's become an opportunity for them to come into business. Although it can be better, and it would have been even become a seamless process, because sometimes you're making purchases and you really want that convenience of being able to do it by yourself without having to contract someone else. And at times you don't even know those persons who can provide the third-party agents who can actually do these things for you.
Essential. Okay, I have signals that our guests are now fully authorized, fully allowed, and they have the audio access, so to speak. So let's have your welcome. If you can hear me clearly now, Mr. Dapo Babajide and Mr. Onoche Melvin Echechukuma. Good morning once again from Soak News. How are you doing this morning, gentlemen?
Yeah, thank you. We're fine. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
I still can't hear you. But can you hear us there? Okay. Apologies for that. I am sure we will have this conversation smoothly very soon. Now, let's look at product quality and counterfeiting of goods, because
that's a big challenge. That's a big challenge for
victim? I mean, you were so eager to talk about it.
Yes, at one time I have been, and that also reduces patronage, because it's sometimes it's an issue of what you see, what I ordered versus what I got.
Okay.
Yes, you go to some e-commerce sites, or you go to the page of some persons who are into e-commerce, and you pick a product and you say, I want this, ship this to me. At the point it gets to you, the quality is not as you saw online. And so it makes some people insist on payment on delivery. Which doesn't quite work well for the dealer.
Essentially.
Because there are two things. The person may receive it and refuse to pay. So the money you had spent trying to ship the product to the person is wasted.
One.
The time and everything is wasted. And so the issue of trust, will I get exactly what I ordered for, is a challenge, which some operators have been able to deal with by building credibility over time. Now, the thing is, if you have an online store, and over time people have come to know that what they order, it meets the quality that they expect, or the quality that was presented to them when online. Over time, people will spread the word. They will give you reviews.
Definitely.
You see, there are feedbacks to this thing.
Definitely.
If you go to some pages, I know that some persons can actually arrange reviews, but you must actually get information about these things from people. When you ask about this particular market, this online store, people will give you reviews about it. So building credibility is one way that marketers have been able to counter.
Even beyond that, Nigerians are getting smarter these days. There are people who are acting like third-party agents in between buyers and sellers. Theirs is to ensure that, okay, they represent both sides equally, fairly. What do I mean? You have a product to sell, particularly those who are into the declutter business. You have items in your house that you think you want to sell, and you come to my page. You send me pictures of those items and their details. Okay, I put on my own social media handles because I have built a trust factor. I am not the buyer. So I get the product's description and pictures from you, then I put it on my own page.
Yes.
And people who have trusted me, potential buyers, contact me. So they send their money to me. They send their money to me to hold for them. Then I will arrange the meeting between the two of you. Once the potential buyer confirms that the goods are in order and they are okay, then I make payment and I charge just a commission.
Yes.
So it's been profitable. Okay, I wouldn't know if we can go back to our gentlemen who have been patiently waiting for us. Can we have you again, please? Hello. Good morning, please.
Yes, thank you.
Speak
Good
to
morning. Once again.
Hello, good morning.
us. Oh. I still can't hear a word.
But we need to speak with this gentleman, and eventually we'll be able to speak with them. Now, talking about the clutter thing, it's a nice innovation because sometimes you have things, you have items you bought, not because anything has gone wrong with them. Maybe there's a more sophisticated model of them. You want to dispose them. So it takes away the stress of you trying to find buyers on your own. You just give it to someone who's into decluttering or an agent like that. And with ease, you get to notified about buyers because the clutter agent has already verified the quality of the product. So e-commerce really has opened up lots of doors, lots of opportunities, and different lines of businesses for people, even though it still has some challenges that needs to be improved upon.
And one of those doors that e-commerce has opened is in the logistics
of course.
There are a lot of young people.
I tend to think they are the most beneficiary.
Well, maybe not in absolute terms, but I know that there are people, we have them everywhere, who just run logistics companies. They are there for. They know that because goods must still move from the supplier or the seller to the buyer. So they are there. They are waiting for you to make a call. You pick up. You leave at their doorstep and you get your money for it. So it's an amazing. We live in amazing times where people don't have to brag about academic certificates to make headway. With due respect to academics, it's still an essential part of our lives, and I'm not trying to demean it. But then there are just new ways of making it big these days without necessarily going through the rigor of some academic drilling here and there. I think we should just go on a short break now. When we come back, we will continue with the segment. Hopefully the audio challenges will have been sorted out. Don't go away.
We're glad to know you stayed. This is the Early Exchange, and before we went on a break, we were discussing about e-commerce and its impact in Nigeria. We have two gentlemen who were actually stakeholders in their industry. So we still have with us Dapo Babajide, who's a chartered accountant and co-founder of Price OK Marketplace and Shopping, and also the CEO of Cartons Producers Nigeria. And we still have Onoche Echichukuma, Manager E-commerce Operations and Commercial Planning of Konga. Hello, gentlemen. Okay, I still see Dapo, and I want to know if you're with us. Just say hello.
Good morning.
Okay.
Be on show.
Okay, that seems to be the voice of Mr. Onoche.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Dapo. Okay. All right. Apologies for that technical issue. It happens, but then we are glad we have been able to overcome that. Okay, we've been speaking to e-commerce. This is your field of play. We know that for sure. Okay, we know we have made, as a country, we have made a measure of progress in the e-commerce space. Yeah, we have more young people, more not so young people coming into that space to play, and they are playing profitably. I mean, to trade. It has removed the bottleneck between the producer and the consumers of goods and services, and it has also employed a lot of people who otherwise would have been part of the unemployment statistics in the country, which is a step in the right direction. But then we know that there are critical infrastructure that must be put in place, and we still have challenges in some of these in Nigeria. Would you just speak? Let me start with Mr. Onoche. What are the infrastructural deficiencies that we have in Nigeria that could probably be limiting the progress of e-commerce? Mr. Onoche, can you hear me, sir? Mr. Onoche?
Okay, I think some of the challenges that e-commerce is faced with is probably affecting us this morning.
But the good thing is that we are Nigerians and we always overcome. We always find a way around it. We will do this today. It will happen today. Okay, let's talk about personalized targeted marketing strategies. Of course, for those who know, they call it retargeting. They call it pixel marketing. If you happen to go on a particular website and you click on the product on an advert, on a social media handle, that advert follows you everywhere on the internet.
And you get more of such.
That
even lead you to other sites that offer such products or services there. Yes, it's one thing that social media has done very well. Social media provides a structure too that supports very well e-commerce, and it's for you to know how to use it. So knowledge is key in this business, in the business of e-commerce. Knowledge is very key. And that's why a lot of persons need to be trained on these things, because knowledge doesn't just come to you like that. You need to seek for it. There are platforms, there are firms where trainings on how to study the market's behavior, how to study consumer behavior particularly, because you must know, it's part of the know your customer thing. So you must know what your customers want. Now, if you've sold, or if a customer has requested for a particular product, basically some platforms just have a way of studying it, and then they provide you with that information, so that customer gets more feeds about the information. So like I said, it demands that you know the information and you know the particular site where you can trade. Definitely. Because you don't get to see all kinds of products on every site.
No, you don't.
Now, Facebook, for one, offers you the opportunity to do lots of trading there. And so for certain goods, it is good. For services too, because let's not forget that e-commerce is not limited to products. There are services. There are services you can make requests for online and you will get them. Some persons have actually taken their office online. So it's not just products. So, but you need to know the site where you can
Have you observed that these days people don't really bother to give you business cards or complimentary cards any longer.
Yes.
They will rather give you their social media handles,
yes,
especially those who have e-commerce platforms that they are operating on. Now, let's speak to one key element in the whole equation here. The interface between e-commerce platforms and artisans and craftsmen.
Yes.
Because, like you said, even in the service sector, e-commerce is playing a key role.
It is.
There are apps online, there are platforms online where for whatever service you need, be it laundry, be it you want them to cook for you, you will get them. Now, before we got to this stage in the e-commerce evolution in Nigeria, there was so much reliance on importation. But now, even our local craftsmen are being integrated into the supply chain, and this is boosting productivity and income for them, because I do know that there are a lot of local do I call them shoemakers or shoe designers, those who still do leather works, and they have, I see some of their products online. I get targeted every time because, like you said, once you click on an advert once, then
you get more feeds about that.
What do you think this does to the local craftsmanship?
It also improves sales for them. It increases sales prospects for them, because ordinarily it would just be those who are within your location that would come to you. But from where you are, even if you just have a small shop in Aba, which is a commercial hub in the eastern part of Nigeria, where a lot of production activities, manufacturing activities are done, it opens you up to someone even outside of Nigeria.
Essentially.
So you have more demand. It's just for you to be good at what you do, and for you to project what you do in the social media space, and have an online store that is active. Active in the sense that some persons are not very active in responding to requests. Definitely. A customer can demand for a particular item, and a day goes by without you responding. So if the customer needed that thing urgently, it turns to another supplier of that. So you also need to be very active on your store. How you respond to requests, how you respond to complaints and even issues, because this is a store that is not physical. Someone makes a request, possibly that person is not even within your location. So you need to understand the issues that may happen with logistics. So while the good is on transit, you may be contacted.
Yes.
You need to follow up. So all of this make up the effectiveness of the business. So if you're able to manage all of this together, it means that you have that customer return, and also you possibly have referrals on that store.
The good thing is that some of these social media handles have created what we call automation. Your responses can be automated because they have factored it in that, okay, at some point you may actually be sleeping because it is close of business in your own geographical zone. And so we have automation of responses such that even if you are away from the business environment in physical terms, when any request or any query drops in there, there are messages that can actually, pop up and reply and take care of that customer at least reasonably well enough until you are back online or you are back in your store.
I like the fact that you added reasonably well enough.
Because
sometimes you can't take away the human connection or the human response, because no matter what you've automated, challenges differ. A new case may just arise and it may just need you to attend. That's why some persons have synced their online store to their WhatsApp numbers
so
and
WhatsApp lines, so
they can respond real time exactly to any issue that arises. It just demands that you be very creative. Be very creative in your approach to how you conduct your online store. But we should also know that e-commerce in Nigeria is booming very well, and there are some sectors, some goods that are trading very well. For instance, electronics and media are the largest requested for in the Nigerian e-commerce market, and that's followed by furniture and appliances, and also food and personal care. Food and personal care is one interesting part of it too. You can just, from wherever you are, and make your order for certain food items to be delivered to you, and that happens. So it's like taking the open market online as well.
All right, let's go back to our guests who have been patiently waiting. We apologize for that. I have the assurances that now we can roll without each. Gentlemen, welcome once again to Souk News, and this is Early Exchange. If you can hear me, please confirm once again so we can hear you here.
Thank you. I can hear you now.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. We can also hear you loud and clear now. Thank you. Apologies once again for the hitch there. Okay. I was asking about infrastructure as a key driver of e-commerce in Nigeria and in fact everywhere in the world. But let us speak to the Nigerian peculiarity. What are the deficiencies within the context of infrastructure that we need to address to further promote the growth of e-commerce in our country? Let me start with you, Mr. Onoche. That's for you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, for Nigeria precisely, two major infrastructure issues that need to be settled properly so we can scale is basically your delivery infrastructure. In terms of how Nigeria is mapped, basically, one of the biggest inconsistencies we have is even tracing addresses, right? So after you have customers come on the site, place orders, delivery guys go out, there's still an inefficiency in calling and trying to locate areas in the country. Like even in a state like Lagos, that is fully urban, locating some areas in Lagos is difficult. Talk less of having to now locate customers who are in very remote aspects of the country. And our aim really is to fulfill and serve all Nigerians, right? So when we have these challenges on infrastructure in terms of placement and location, it's a big challenge in the industry, which we are trying to create more solutions that will be able to fill that gap, right? Another challenge that we'd have really is in terms of internet and digital penetration, really, because a huge populace in the country right now still isn't connected to the internet in good ways. And well, for areas which also have proper internet connection, we still have failures along the line. When payments are being made, there could be network trip-off that basically affect the service which we attempt to offer to our customers. So ideally, those are two major lapses in infrastructure that we really need to solve in the country in terms of delivery, properly mapping out the country, and improvement in internet penetration and services.
Okay, now let's talk about regulatory framework. You know, this e-commerce happening on the internet space involves a lot of things. Now, for some e-commerce platforms, you will need to download the app. And in downloading the app, there are certain permissions that you will need to okay for it to function. Data privacy and the issue of consumer protection, all of this. What is happening in that space to ensure that the fact that you're downloading an app to be able to trade or make purchases from an online store, it doesn't thus expose you or make you vulnerable to insecurities, issues around insecurities. And I'm talking to Dakpo right now. Hello, Dakpo, can you hear me?
Seem to have lost your audio.
Okay, so
maybe you can attempt
Onoche,
that.
please,
Onoche,
you can go ahead and respond to that.
Onoche, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Mr. Dakpo, can you?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, the question was targeted at you, Mr. Dakpo, talking about privacy of consumers, because we have to provide data, provide information online, essentially to be able to trade or take part in the e-commerce business, either as a consumer or as a seller. So she was just asking, what are the data privacy issues that we have? Okay, we've lost them there. Okay, I guess we would have to visit this conversation some other time, because we do need the inputs of professionals who are practicing in the field. It's a field of endeavor that we really can't do without now, because it's part of the global ecosystem.
Yes, it is, and it is one area of business that has reduced greatly the rate of unemployment, because it is one place that people have turned to after searching for white-collar job, and so they just become creative. What can I do? I think I can make some money out of the internet space, and so they take their business there. But like Ayo has said, we need to revisit the conversation when we're sure that every glitch has been taken care of, and we can have a smooth conversation with Dakpo and, of course, Onoche, who are players in the e-commerce space.
So in the meantime, let us go on a short break, and then maybe we can move to some other topics of discourse. Maybe in the course of the program, we could still return to the talk of e-commerce, because I know that people are itching to to hear about the challenges and the way forward, because a lot of them are facing challenges. Even though they are growing in numbers, they still would not mind getting to know how they can get better in the trading online. So let's go on a short break, and we will be back to take another issue. Thank you.
So some time ago, I came up with this idea to establish a TV station. It was about 17 years ago, and the idea was for us to have a TV station to rival a particular TV station. And the more we grew up with the project, we found out that there's no need for us to try to rival a particular TV station, but for us to come up with our own unique TV station with a very good platform. So the Souk News is a product of research of over many years. I have a very strong background in research and development with over 22 years. And so the Souk News is as a result of this, my years of experience, exposures, and travels. And that's why we have this TV news, the Souk News today. And we are proud to say that the Souk News is a product of Wash Media. Wash Media is the owner of Wash Radio, an mobile radio station for the upcoming youth and of course the young entrepreneurs to have a platform to showcase what they do and to be able to celebrate them as well. So that is the idea. And we tend to demystify the norm. We tend to carve the ordinary to extraordinary. We tend to be one of the leading news platforms in sub-Saharan Africa. We also intend to be the ideal workplace for all journalists or media professionals that say, okay, look, I would want to work with a media TV station because they possess the qualities that are irresistible and yet hard to find among the media organizations in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, we try not to make it boring. We want to make it captivating by the content, like I mentioned. So say it's a business news, not necessarily mean that we are 100% not considering the fact that we have the upcoming young business people among ourselves. Not forgetting that we have the skit industry. One of the major work is for us to do evaluation and do a critical analysis of the skit industry to know the value of the skit industry. It's one of the major pride of Nigeria in recent years. And the entertainment industry. When you're talking about entertainment, you know that we're talking about the young, sharp, brilliant, innovative, creative, those people working behind the cameras, those people in front of the cameras. So we are exploring all angles to see how we can capture everyone from the business perspective, who give value to every project you do. So if you're a market woman and you sell tomatoes, you want to give value to your project. So we are not focusing on the big people as well only. We are also looking at how to give value to the man who sells corn on the street or the market woman that sells tomato in the market.
All right, it's time for us to look at security on early exchange. We'll still have the Vice President, Femi Wash Limited, and Director, ADSC, Idahosa Osamanze, in the studio.
Okay, just yesterday, the Lagos Assembly canvassed state police. It was in the papers. And of course, we know this is not a new topic of discourse. It has been with us, it has been circulated, talked about, debated. There are arguments for, there are arguments against. And one of the arguments for the creation of state police in Nigeria is the fact that people say it will enhance security at the local level because, yes, we have tailor-made solutions in some other sectors. Why not in security? They call it bespoke security. It becomes easier, they say, for someone who is a resident of a particular locale to be able to provide security because we know all the corners, we know all the nook and the cranny. So if we have state police and that is under the control of the state governors, essentially, those who are proponents of state police, they are saying that, yes, it makes for better security as against the centralized police command that we have in Nigeria. And of course, there are arguments against. Which one of them is?
Yeah, one of them is the issue of funding, that how will states fund the police force, because a lot of states in Nigeria depend on the federal government for allocations. So if they depend on the federal government for allocations to pay salaries of workers in the state civil service, how then can they fund the police? And if you're not funding the police, how can they be effective? You would even give the chance for police officers at the state level to begin to engage in criminal practices just to make ends meet. So those are some of the issues for those who are against state police.
So where do you stand?
It's not
for
just,
against?
It's not just funding alone. A lot of people are also afraid of the responsibility of our politicians, who could turn these instruments to an instrument or agent of oppression to continue to perpetuate their dominance in the political space. That's another major worry. But that said, I think a federation is a covenant between the center and the federating unit. And in all federation that has worked, you see there are some issues that are on exclusive list, some on concurrent and the other one on residual list. And these lists determine what each arm of government can do. But actually speaking to local policing, I think that's actually the best option to be able to curb security. These things have been in existence. It's only we're just amplifying it now because we want to put a kind of constitutional structure around it. I remember growing up as a child in my own car. My parents and the elderly men in the community had this vigilante structure to watch over their community. I remember those days, they grouped themselves into a group every day. You have a group stay to watch the community to see that there are no intruders. Because it's easier for the people in the locality to know who is a stranger. Or even if they have a son who is doing something, they can also track them. So they were doing it both night and day. They were doing shift. But nobody was actually paying them because that was their own way of protecting themselves. And I think that's what the whole philosophy about state policing is all about, that you know your environment, you know your domain, you know who is who, you know what to watch out, you know the rules around your neighborhood, and then you are actually able to mark them out so that if there are external people who are coming into the community to do crime, then you can actually figure them out and fight them. You see, but one of the challenges they had those days was the fact that they didn't have so much of equipment, and many of them had to rely on charms, as they call it, and then some people have to rely on their gun to protect themselves. But now you're having armed robber carrying pump actions, and some of them are using very sophisticated weapon, and some even using dynamite to do operation these days. So those local things will not be able to contain it. But the real challenge of security in Nigeria is one issue actually of funding. Because number one, the police is not properly funded. The recruitment procedure for the police is also very faulty because all manner of people get into the police, even people that cannot understand basic rules. And all these things are really the things that are working against the Nigerian police force. But I think, critically speaking, if some state can afford it, Lagos can afford state police. They have a security fund that Bola Ahmed Tinubu put in place while he was the governor of the state, and they are generating so much money from industry practitioners in Lagos State, so they can deploy that. But there are other states who will not be able to fund police because, as we speak, they can't even pay their civil servants. And this is a huge challenge.
Okay, now let's look at synergy and issues of jurisdiction as it concerns having multiple police force. So how do we deal with that if we have every state having their own police? Let's assume that it can handle the issue of funding. Yeah, of course, the law creates that boundary. There are states where this happens, so I don't think it's something we have to reinvent. Where you have people who have already practiced something and they have done it excellently well, everybody knows where their boundary is. It's just like even the national police. If you have to deal with a crime that is crossing into the border of Chad, for example, or Benin Republic, you will need a collaboration with people outside of things. So we have all had this over time. You remember those days they used to have Federal Highway Patrol? Yes. And so those ones had jurisdiction that cut across the whole federation. They can operate anywhere within the federation. So they were specially designed for that purpose. Whereas state police were operating within their state boundaries. So the law has already made provisions for all of that. What that will mean is that you will have that where issues that had their origin or jurisdiction within the locale of the state police people handle it. But if they are needing a reinforcement from the federal, they can also call for such reinforcement. It's not be a duplicity because we cannot even talk. We are under police as we speak right now. Because the number of people that you have, if you put it, what the United Nations is talking about, the number of police vis-a-vis
the ratio to population, you see that we're under policed, and we need really more hands to police Nigeria. But the real critical issue here is the issue of funding. That once you can sort the funding issue out, then of course I think we are good to go. Let's practice true federalism, and that is what it is, and give responsibility to states, and let states begin to look inward. I was speaking with somebody some time ago, and he said to me, every state in Nigeria has critical resource that can actually sustain them if we have to look inward, rather than this cap in hand begging in Abuja we do every month. So if states develop their internal capacity, they will be able to have enough money, and they can actually fund state police.
Okay.
It's possible.
Okay, one of the strengths for decentralized policing that we have in Nigeria now, as some people say, is this central sharing of intelligence. Now, when we have when we have state police across all the states of the federation, as the arguments against it goes, people are saying, what happens to this centralized intelligence network? Because even as we have it now, there is no proper coordination, some will argue, or shake of hands between different military and paramilitary arms of government. People are saying, okay, the police force may not be that much in tune with the NSCDC, for instance. So that's even at that level. Now we'll not have, okay, a particular state having its own police force and another state having, and would they still share central intelligence? That's the concern.
Do we even have intelligence in the first place? And I think
I like to believe we do. Because I told you.
If we have intelligence, most of the things we're talking about, they will not be there. Fighting crime is very difficult in Nigeria because there are no intelligence. And I don't think that we have invested sufficiently in intelligence gathering. That is another aspect, conversation for another day. Because most of the things you see happen is not actually the issue of police. You have a lot of people, specialized agencies that are well trained, who should be able to give police lead to where crime is about to happen. And so you have preventive crime fighting rather than, fighting crime head on. So if we have intelligence, we will not be in the kind of quagmire we find ourselves today. But talking about sharing of intelligence, I don't think that should be a problem. Once the rules and the laws are there, if you see the average man on the street and you will ask and said, they will tell you the policemen know all the criminals in Nigeria. They tell you police know where criminals are in Nigeria, that if police are determined to fight crime, they can fight crime. But why are they not fighting crime? Some people speak to morale, proper remuneration. This is the real issue. And I think those are the things that we can, if we can deal with those issues to dignify the institution of the National Police, as it is, it can work.
But let's look at it this way, because there is the argument that one of the reasons that people are beginning to call for state policing is because they found areas where the federal police in Nigeria has not been efficient. There have been allegations of politicians using them for their own purpose and using them to oppress opponents. And
I think that's the argument
against. Yes.
Yeah, but because the governors have been arguing that they, being the chief executive of the state, has no control over the police force.
But the question now is that...
That's the argument. And that's why the emphasis so much on state police. Because the governors are saying, oh, the commissioner of police in my state reports to the IG of police. And if IG said no, I don't have control. So if I have an emergency in my state, I cannot quickly do this. But I see that argument as just lame duck. You see, the real truth of the matter is that politicians, in their irresponsibility, are actually looking for opportunity to have an institution that they can use at their beck and call, not for the security of the generality of the people, but for their own personal security. Because I cannot see where you see, okay, armed robbery is robbing here in Nigeria, you are calling commissioner of police and say he's waiting for permission from IG to operate. That has never happened in this country.
Okay, but be that
it has never happened that there's a crime happening somewhere and the commissioner of police is, you see, except that the protest is political, okay, or there are issues that are political. You want to stop people from holding a rally or a campaign in your area, and you want your police to enforce it, which is what the Constitution has guaranteed the other people to do. This is the area where they are saying that they are not having control over the Commissioner of Police, because the truth of the matter is that the Commissioner of Police of every state report to the governor of that state. So when issues of internal security are concerned, they also brief them. So they can't say they don't have control. Really, that argument for me really do not hold water. What should be the real case is that, yes, in the locality, people will know their people. And that was why I think it was the second two IGs before this one was actually talking to see how do we begin to even use that same dynamics within the state so that people who are in the lower echelon of the Nigerian police are posted to their state of origin, so that they can actually police their state. But unfortunately, we also have this system that a lot of people who come from a particular state and are in the police force have actually not known their village before.
Well, even where they do, is it not possible that the familiarity also becomes
an issue,
an impediment to them actually carrying out their responsibilities? Because where you are posted to your community and you seem to know this family, that family, and every other person in the environment, some persons may not want to do what they should do, maybe because they do not want to lose face before those persons they have grown up with.
No, I don't see it as such. You see, we must be able to understand that even our culture frowns at crime and evil. And if there's anything police is out to do, is to provide people with security, safety in their environment. And if police are in a locale, because we have local vigilantes, as we speak in my community, there are local vigilantes. And in short, as a matter of fact, they are more effective than the police. They know who to summon. As an age grade person in my community those days, when a crime happened, we go to your father's house and bring you out. It doesn't matter who you are. So that won't become a problem. The real issue is the fact that they should be dignified to the extent that they are not bribable. That's the only worry.
Okay.
You see, because if you go to, because if you go to the UAE, for example, or you go to the US, when you see a police, you'll be afraid. You go to Paris, you see a police, you'll be afraid. Don't think of going close. Because they are dignified. Now, the problem here is that you can imagine commuting on public transport and see how commercial bus driver demean our police. Okay. Because there is no any dignity around the job. So the first thing to do is to dignify the police force so that when people see them, they're actually afraid. Now, people don't, those days you see a policeman, you are afraid. If a police van enter into your community, you are afraid. But today is no longer the same. Because Okada man is giving you 2 naira, so he can speak to you anyhow.
Which still speaks to the over-familiarity that Blessing just spoke to earlier on. Now, let's look at this issue of dignifying the police first. A simple research was done somewhere, some time ago. People were asked, people like you, people like me were asked, would you like your child to join the police force in Nigeria? Majority of the answers were no. Why? No. Now, the researchers now said, if you who are informed will not allow your children to join the police force, basically because you think it is not dignifying enough, that now leaves recruitment to people who just want to be there because there is no alternative to earning a living. That's why you find urchins in the police force. Just yesterday, a policeman was defeated. I can't recall the exact state, which in itself is an applaudable act by the police force because it did something that is not in line with the ethics of policing in Nigeria. But it now begs for the need, for real, for us to ensure that we give the police force a facelift in Nigeria. In conduct, we still have a situation whereby an average policeman still buys his own shoes to replace, for replacement. So I like to align with you in the area of
because the salary service is appalling.
The take-home pay cannot take you home.
Yeah. So this is the real issue. So you see, if we are serious about crime fighting, we must be ready to invest in that system, and that's what is important. It's not just to recruit people and put them on the street and then they become beggars and they are looking for means to survive. So this is the real challenge that people face. Now, a lot of them also are facing a lot of hazard, and you have policemen who have died in the course of active duty, and then the state is not able to even reimburse and settle the family 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line. And so this leaves people with a whole lot of doubt doing something that is public. So what they are trying to do is to sort themselves out.
And one thing that state policing may actually be able to take care of, you find that the practice usually is that if you come from a particular state, you're posted to another state to serve, and somehow it distorts family life for some of them. There used to be the saying that for a military officer or for a security officer, because of the nature of their job, they have families everywhere that they serve, and sometimes it also has economic implications of that, because you're living somewhere outside of your family. You having to take care of your family elsewhere. So it's like you having double spendings on different areas. So, but I think that when it comes to funding, if we are to have it well, even though some states can actually generate revenue, some other states may not be able to come up with the revenue. So you have that if it is approved that state policing should be operative in Nigeria, some states will have their police, some states would not have their police. So why not fight a single battle of addressing the issues with policing in general, so that funding can come from the federal government and maybe in collaboration with state governments?
Yeah, you know, as you just mentioned that fact, I remember Aristotle's Polis, where he really advocated for philosopher kings, and he said there are 3 segments in every society. You have the philosopher king, who think for the society, and then you also have the military, and then of course the artisans. And then he says the military were supposed to be a group of people who are not supposed to marry, but because to satisfy their sexual desire, just bring women into their environment, and then they don't need to have children. And if they produce children by accident, they by default become the children of the state. You know, that was his postulation, the ancient Greek philosopher. But that said, you look at the real challenge here is the fact that if you are working in public, it's not just police. Even people in foreign missions, they are transferred to other countries. And if they have means, they can relocate their children. If they don't have means, they can stay where they are. Because it's walking around and seeing your children, because you sign up that you want to do this job. And I don't think that is the issue of actually moving that's a problem. The real issue is adequate motivation and remuneration.
So how do we address it?
Now, it is simple. And I think this is, again, what our society has not been able to deploy very well. Apart from even the wage issue, you're also looking life after police. We're looking at when disaster happen. Some of all these things can actually be, this risk can be taken to a third party, the insurance. Nigeria can afford to insure the life of an average policeman, that in the eventuality that you're fighting crime and you are no longer there, the insurance company has a responsibility to pay your family, take care of your children and your wife. And if such facilities are in place, people will willingly want to join police, and they will actually want to fight crime, because they know that if I die, the state will take over my affair through the insurance policy. But this is not in place, and this is why you find that when a policeman dies on active duty, and the wife and the children, they become widow, and they're suffering, the first thing that happens, you chase them out if they are in the barracks, and they have no home of their own, because there's no mortgage that can afford them a home. So these are the issues. And I'm very happy the fact that our president has been speaking to this issue philosophically, issues about credit, access to credit, and we pray that is able to actually put these structures in place so that we can also embrace insurance operations in our environment to address some of these motivational issues.
All right.
Thank
you, Dahosa Zamanze of ADSC. The issue of state policing will be a front burner thing. It has been put before the National Assembly now for consideration, maybe not officially, at least Lagos State Assembly has urged the National Assembly to look in that direction. And let me just say this, while we sincerely hope that policemen are taken care of posthumously, I mean their families, many of them are even saying, while we are alive, take care of us, because nobody has an idea what happens when he or she is gone. We know we have the likes of Amotekun, which is not a state police as of today, but it's a military, it's a security setup for the southwestern part of Nigeria, and maybe Ibubiago.
And some states also have their own local.
And to be very fair to them, they've been pulling their weight in their own respective states, ensuring that they cooperate with the police force to make sure that we put crimes at bay in the country. It is only hope that at some point we'll be able to put this argument to rest and look at the pros and the cons objectively, not from a parochial standpoint, and remove every shade of personal sentiments. If it is what we need, if the arguments for state police override the arguments against, please let us listen. Let the right authority take the action, because we're not alone here. Yes. There are states in the US that have their own state police, and even in the UK they have regional police, even though not state police. Okay.
You can drop a comment. Yes, you can drop a comment as you watch, and be sure that the comments will eventually be noted.
Okay, we go on a short break now, and when we return, we'll look at another issue entirely. Please stay with us.
Don't go anywhere.
No sovereign can make any significant advancement or national progress where the number of idiots and tribesmen far outnumber the number of citizens. When I look at the political terrain, I come up with a law, the law of sovereign advancement. And according to me, the law is that no sovereign can make any significant advancement or national progress where the number of idiots far outnumber the number of citizens. The ancient Greeks have a philosophy about the members of a typical society. And the ancient Greeks said there are 3 types of people in the society. And the first type of people in the society are the idiots. The idiots are like you and I, people that went to school, people that dress well, people that we consider elite in the society. But they're extremely selfish, they are gluttonous by nature, self-centered, and they're only out for their treasure and their pleasure to the detriment of anybody. So these are the people that will wake up late and come to the toll gate and drive straight in front of the queue, not minding that people have been waiting patiently in the queue. You see them every day. They throw rubbish out of their car or from their house to the empty compound beside them. Insofar as it's not them, extremely self-centered and gluttonous, only for their pleasure and for their treasure. The other members of the society, according to the ancient Greeks, are the tribesmen. And the tribesmen are people that are not comfortable with anything outside their immediate group. And the tribesmen are not just ethnic tribesmen. You have religious tribesmen, you have class tribesmen, rich and poor. They are the kind of people that are intimidated by people that look different from them or are a little different from them. Now, there's a third set of people that the Greek talks about in the society, and these are citizens of the sovereign. The citizens are not necessarily because your mother and your father are of the country. So that you're a Nigerian is an outcome of either your mother or father or both being Nigerian. But citizenship is that high ideal of society, the ideal of being mindful of the rights of your neighbors, the ideal of fighting for your rights, but also protecting the right of the smallest minority or even your most bitter enemy. That is a citizen. And we're discussing about what percentages do we think that in our country are idiots or tribesmen or citizens. And the consensus is that based on these definitions, probably only 10% are citizens. And my law is that there is no sovereign that can make any meaningful advancement where the number of idiots and tribesmen far outnumber the number of citizens. It doesn't matter who is the leader of that society. Chances are that in going to pick the leader of that society, 9 out of 10 is going to be either an idiot or a tribesman anyway. And even in the situation where you pick him from the citizen, any good cook will tell you that a rotten fish body and you put a clean fish head on it will rot the fish head in no time. So even as a citizen that becomes a leader, he goes out there to lead the people and is totally frustrated or he's compromised. If we want to see change, then we have to start by being citizens of our country. We started with Malaysia, Korea, the Emirates. We even had more poor people in India than us. They were all marched past us. We see countries that we consider ourselves way ahead of them, such as Ghana and Rwanda, striding very swiftly past us. We just need to get it right. We cannot outsource blame to anybody, not to the leaders, nor to any other person. If we want advancement in our society, in our country, in our sovereignty, we have to all strive to become citizens. Thank you.
I trust you have been provided insights and motivation there by Austin Okere. All right, now let's look at something that has to do with the job, the working space.
Yes.
Now, our report has it that job unhappiness is at an all-time high globally. Some persons are not happy with the job that they do. They're not happy about certain things. And you know that for any worker who is not happy, the work that they do will suffer.
Essentially.
So it's going to affect productivity, and that, of course, will result in customer dissatisfaction. Imagine you walk into an office or even a shop and you ask for a service and you have a worker who's giving you attitude. Let's even start there. If that's the first time you went to that place, I doubt if you have the mind or the intention to return there. So it's a big issue because it affects productivity, and of course, in the long run, it will affect the business. But to take us through the process, what even makes workers or some workers unhappy, how it impacts on the business, and how it impacts on the economy in the long run. We have Godwin Idoko Ogala, who is the managing partner, Haynes and Atkinson Consulting. He has background in human resources management, leadership, strategy, business analysis, and of course, customer management. So you see, it's a square peg in a square hole today.
Oh, okay. The issue of happiness can't be overemphasized.
Yes.
A particular state had Ministry of Happiness.
That was Imo State.
Imo State. Is it Commissioner for Happiness? Or, yeah, of course.
Commissioner for,
before you can have a commissioner, you must have a ministry. When you are not happy at your duty post, then everything is likely going to go wrong going down the thing, because there is a correlation, a direct correlation between happiness and personal productivity. And we all know that personal productivity feeds into organizational productivity. So if every employee, or if most employees of your company are not happy, essentially there is a limit to what you can achieve in terms of organizational objectives. So today we take a look at the correlation, the issues, the way forward between unhappiness at your job post and productivity, because at the end of the day, The human element plays a critical role in business development and the progress of the community as a whole. So we have our guest standing by on Zoom. If you can hear us, gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is Early Exchange on Souk News. Please, let's have confirmation that we can hear you and you can hear us. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you yet, but I'm sure I will. I can't see you yet.
Good morning, Godwin Idoku. Okay, yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
So first of all, talk to us about issues that can make an employee unhappy, because when people get jobs, they're happy. They share the news with their families or friends. And even these days, they update their status, letting you know their new role in any organization or in any capacity. So, but what must have happened, or what are the possible things that could lead to any employee becoming unhappy at a job to do?
Okay, good morning once again, and thank you so much for having me. Just confirm that you can hear me.
Of course, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you now. And we can hear you. So you can go on, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes,
go
we
ahead.
can. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So if I understand your question, you're asking what are the things that probably lead to employee unhappiness, right?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so employee unhappiness or job unhappiness usually refers to a state of dissatisfaction or discontent or a lack of fulfillment experienced by people in their work or professional environment. It is characterized by negative emotions, low morale, and a general sense of dissatisfaction with the various aspects of their job. It can lead to people waking up every day and not looking forward to going to work. It can lead to a whole lot of a high record of absenteeism. It can lead to, like you have noted, high turnover, and of course with employees putting up their what do you call it, their LinkedIn profile up for job opportunities in other organizations and everything. But worse still, it can actually lead to what we refer to as redundancy, and a low creativity as well. So one thing you don't want to have is people who are at your place taking 100% of their salary, but only giving you 30% of the value that they bring to the workplace. Your greatest threat are not those who actually didn't exit the organization. It is those who stay but do not give you the full value of what they can bring in. There are three things we bring to work: our head, our heart, and our hand. And you can have a situation where people probably just come and give you their hand, but they don't give you their heart and they don't give you their head. So the impact is significant. Research has shown that there are about 2 billion people, or 3 billion people, sorry, in the workforce today, and about 40% of that number, of that population, have said, okay, they are happy at work. But that leaves about 1.8 billion or 2 billion in the dissatisfaction zone. And the implication of that for organizations, the same statistics or the same research shows that organizations that have happy employees
Okay,
or perform 3 times more to or half employees that maybe $100, per annum. If the population or the proportion of your employees tilts to the unhappy zone, chances are that your competitors are performing 3 times more, or probably making 3 billion higher than higher than you, or 300 billion higher than you in that same space. So employee dissatisfaction or unhappiness can have a huge impact on not just the employee, but also on the organization. And there's really a need to close that divide. In our own work as consultants, we're fortunate to move from organizations to organizations. Many organizations will carry out HR audits. In other places, we have the opportunity to deploy employee satisfaction surveys or employee engagement surveys or cultural audits. And other cases where we probably carry out training programs, we find that most of the classes, employees are very quick to tell you what is going on in the organization, and so we usually get a great sense of how happy or how unhappy people are in many organizations.
Okay, Mr. Idoko.
One training session, we had to spend about 2 hours to 3 hours just even addressing the happiness issues, because we knew that if we did not address the issues of the heart, there was no way they were going to take anything we had into their head. So we had to just allow them to, to vent and, and bring out everything that were the pain points, for them, and
all right,
try to address someone, So it's important that you address these things, else don't give the best of it.
Okay, Mr. Idoko, thank you for that submission, that opening submission. Actually, 60% unhappy people out of 100% is quite huge. If you said 1.8 out of 3 billion of the workforce globally is unhappy, that calls for concern. Okay, yeah, I heard you say something like, okay, you can conduct job satisfaction survey, and some, well, at a very local level, where you have a small workforce, can actually tell if one employee is happy or unhappy. But I quite know that some people can hide their unhappiness, because in some organizations there is this policy that whatever issues you have at home, once you are stepping into the gate of the company, please drop the issues at the gate and you can pick up, which calls for disguising your real state of mind, which of course can harm the business progress. Okay, now what happens to effective communication channels between employers and employees so that you can, as an employee, feel at ease to communicate the source of your unhappiness to your employee? Do we have that kind of framework in the global workspace that allows you to be able to communicate how unhappy you are and probably see if you can seek for help from your organization so that your morale can be boosted, because morale is a critical driver of job performance? What happens to that channel? Do we have it in place in most workplaces?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Let me just start by saying that sometimes there is no need to look too far for solutions to these things. The first and the most important means or tool for managing employee unhappiness is actually simple. It is the line manager. Everything is actually, a lot of things around the employees that and rest with the line manager. We have this people management framework we teach to people, and we say there are 3 things, 4 things employees are looking for. 1 is for you to know them, 2 is for you to focus them, 3 is for you to guide them, and 4 is for you to recognize them. Now, the first dimension, which is know me, see me, right? Talk to me, communicate with me. And of course, one of the qualities of great leaders is that they are great listeners. If as a leader, you create an environment where your people can talk to you and you listen. And when we say listen, a lot of people would say when you look into people's eyes and you repeat what they say, you have listened. That's not necessarily easy. All right, but humbly and being intentional about trying to understand what someone is saying, and buying into what they're saying and emphasizing with them, putting yourself in their shoes, is where active listening actually works. And where you create that kind of environment, where you're approachable, you listen, actively and attentively, people will open up to you, and then they will tell you their personal issues. Just like you rightly noted, yes, a number of triggers for job dissatisfaction. Maybe as a result of work-life imbalance, something that happened at home, and then trying to balance family front with the office front. Yeah, but then there are other dissatisfiers that actually within the work space. There are 4 key areas we tend to measure when we move into organization. One is what we refer to as my leader. The second, which I've talked about briefly, the second is my colleagues. All right, because people can, when people belong to teams where they don't have a sense of belonging, where they are being talked down, or where in environments where there's toxicity, there's politics, people gossip, right? This can be a source of satisfaction for people at work. The other dimension is my work. My work, yes, is my work. Is it satisfying? Is the job mix? Is it challenging? Is it interesting? Does my work give me room to apply my best talent? And am I even interested in my work? Have I been matched with the best work? Some people are in jobs that they are not happy about. They are in jobs that they are not designed for, all right? So people are, automatically they will be unhappy. And there's nothing the organization is going to be able to do about that, because they are doing what they are not designed to. And then is my job, does it give me an opportunity and exposure to experiences I've always aspired to and everything? So all those things about your job are very important. And then of course, the fourth dimension that's also very important for you is my pay, all right, my reward, all right? Do I get paid fairly? Do I get recognized, all right? Has anybody in my office or in my workspace giving me any form of praise, feedback, or recognition for the good work I've been doing? These are all sources of satisfaction and dissatisfaction or unhappiness, at work. So, but when you have a great leader that listens, so you have a great management team that puts systems in place to extract this feedback from the workforce, they have an opportunity to then do something to close these gaps. And that will help people to transit from unhappiness to happiness.
So when an organization has been unable to actually create a good feedback mechanism and gets to know how workers feel and even create the enabling environment for workers to thrive, what then happens to the productivity of that organization? Can you take us through how it affects productivity?
Yes, so thank you very much. So essentially, when people are happy, as it's been proven, I know a Harvard professor of happiness, I'm trying to remember his full name now, who wrote he went to Harvard to study happiness, and it's all over YouTube and everything, has done fantastic, has produced a lot of great work on the whole science of happiness and the impact on productivity and the impact on company performance. When people are satisfied, when people are happy, when people are engaged, when they are connected to their work, when their creativity is unleashed, when they are passion, when they are in jobs that tap their talent and connect with their passion, they give their best to the organization. And when everybody, the man in sales is going out there and converting, the man in marketing is out there, generating leads. The man in customer service is polite and nice to customers, The man in production is producing high quality product. The man in finance is doing his job, with happiness, he's focused, he's not thinking about family problems, he's not worried about his colleagues stabbing him in the back. He's connected. When everybody across the organization, the entire organizational chain, are doing their job right, definitely it will impact on output. It will impact on customer experience. And of course, that will ultimately impact on the revenue that we make as an organization. And of course, it will even impact on the margins, because there's a whole lot of innovation, there's a whole lot of creativity that goes into the thing. So if you look at best practice organizations that have some of these systems in place and who have achieved some level of happiness or satisfaction with their employees, you find out that they are the best, that they are the ones leading their industry, or their market, and of course, these things are relative and at different levels, and of course, happiness is also subjective in a way. So what makes me happy may not necessarily make another person happy, but organizations who have, to a great extent, been able to bring their employees to a high level of happiness. Even though, so I'm trying to balance this because we have worked with maybe some multinationals, and in that classroom, they're all expressing unhappiness about maybe their pay and everything. And maybe, if you look at the pay, you see that this pay is like, is something else compared to other people in other small organizations who are expressing their own unhappiness. However, they are not even talking so much about pay. So again, like I said, happiness is relative, and what makes one happy is different from what makes another person happy. Okay. But largely, in organizations that have great perks in place, have the right conditions in place, have the right environment, they are actively, checking for how their people feel about the various dimensions of their employee value proposition. And making deliberate effort to adjust it. They have a fantastic HR and a mature HR system in place because, again, in HR, there's what called HR maturity index. Some organizations have low maturity index, others have very high HR maturity index. Organizations that have high HR maturity index are organizations who are putting the right HR systems, processes, policies, and are global, and are all based on global best practices. Organizations like that stand a high chance of having very satisfied and very happy and very engaged employees. Okay. Right? So when you have organizations who have invested a lot into their human resource management system and who have also spent a lot of time investing in their leaders, right? They have a leadership standard in place. They test the gaps in their leadership. In their leadership standard, they test all their leaders to ensure that they are conforming to their leadership standard. And where they don't conform, they expose them to executive coaching, they expose them to training, they expose them to, all kind of interventions to ensure those
all right.
You will find that where organizations have things like that in place, the happiness index is higher.
Okay.
All right. And they tend to get better results. They tend to lead their market.
Okay, Mr. Godwin.
Have the happier customers.
Sorry to cut in there. Sorry, I like to ask because we are running out of time, and I just want to ask this before we go. Okay, feedback is an essential part of performance indices measurements at work. Yes, most employers give this feedback, and most times they are not sensitive enough to see who's us, who is God. And of course, there's a place of reward also, or recognition. How do you, as an employer of labor, maintain that balance between giving feedbacks which are necessary and, recognizing the achievement of your workforce with a view to promoting happiness? Can we make it as briefly as possible? Because you must answer that. I would advise, please. Thank you. The balance between feedback and recognition of
so it's
efforts.
often said that feedback is the breakfast of champions, and feedback is the two-way street. Organizations must put in place systems that ensure that they get feedback from their people, and they also give feedback to their people. There is nothing more as disheartening as you are working from January or to December, and nobody has sat down to tell you how you are doing, and then show up at the end of the year to tell you that you didn't perform well, right? That is what happens in an environment that is feedback. So savvy organizations are organizations that not only ensure that managers and their team members have the one-on-one at least once a month. Better organizations have maybe twice or three times in a week. All right. I've seen situations like that, and I've run things like that too, because people need to always know how they're doing, and that's why there is what they call management by moving around. All right. So leaders are encouraged to move around, monitor things, And from time to time, as they notice things, immediately give feedback to their people. And of course, feedback must be effective. That's what we refer to as the STAR framework. So when you give feedback, make sure that you mention clearly what the situation is, the task is, the action the person took, and the impact having either on their work, on their colleague, and all of that. So it's important that feedback are also effective. All right. So one of the gaps we have is leaders are not trained on how to give effective feedback. So an effective feedback is one that you give me and I know exactly what to do or what not to do next time.
Okay,
so,
thank you very much.
Leaders must be trained on how to give feedback, and that feedback must be given as frequently as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Godwin Idoko Ogala, for providing us with great insight on job happiness and its impact on productivity. We appreciate your time with us on Early Exchange this morning. Moving on, we'll go on a quick break and then we will be joining Chinuta and Alex for Social Fields. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned with
Welcome to Social Feeds this Thursday. Today, as usual, we explore the trends in business making waves across various social media platforms. I am Chiluta Otulu.
And I'm Alex Oteri. How are you, Chiluta?
I'm fine. I'm doing great.
Okay, I'm excited that we'll be diving into the fascinating world of social media to discover what's buzzing in the business realm. And absolutely today, with all that we have created, we have 3 topics trending at the moment, and your opinions and stories would also definitely be heard.
Now, those 3 topics are NATO, Ticketmaster, Al Nasser. Let's jump right in. Now, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, has been trending for quite a while now, since the ongoing summit of the NATO military alliance in Vilnius, Lithuania, began. NATO leaders gathered yesterday to launch a highly symbolic new forum for ties with Ukraine, after committing to provide the country with more military assistance for fighting Russia, but only vague assurances of future membership. Now, British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace raised some eyebrows by suggesting that Ukraine should appear more grateful for Western military support and not treat allies like Amazon.
It's the Amazon for me. Like they're trading weapons or something.
Exactly. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says it's a forum where Ukraine and NATO allies will meet as equals, hold crisis consultations, and jointly take decisions. And now Ukraine is now closer to NATO than never before. This setting is part of NATO's efforts to bring Ukraine as close as possible to the military alliance without actually joining it. Now, recently, the leaders said in their communique summarizing the summit's conclusions that Ukraine can join when allies agree and conditions are met.
Okay, so let's get to the tweet. Kiyosaki said the promise of NATO to grant membership to Ukraine after the end of the war for Putin means that the war has to be prolonged as much as possible. Even after Ukraine liberates its territories, there will always be a possibility of shelling Ukrainian buildings. Saudi Ahmed Khan said, don't prolong the war with false promises. Rather, you should bring peace and negotiation and mediations. Rigolio Saldo Chu said, in a post-Putin scenario, NATO should invite Russia to become a member. This would put an end to the 20th century legacy of the Cold War. That's smart. Olina Wave said, promises, promises, promises. 30 years of promises, and now they have opened the door by a millimeter, which is only opened by promises. Ukraine also alone is fighting against Russian fascism, and the organization that was created to oppose Moscow is burying its head in the sand. And Namorozi said, Mr. Zelensky is a great leader of free world. Stand behind him and support the people of Ukraine. Well, from this tweet, we'll see that a lot of people have the insights that Ukraine is the only one facing Russia, and instead of NATO giving them full support and full backing, it's almost like they're on defense. So what do you think, Lata?
Well, I think everybody is supporting Ukraine, and they want Ukraine to be part of NATO. I think this has been.
But from the tweets that we see that a lot of people have it that it's taking too long for Ukraine to join NATO, because I mean it's been a while since they've been trying to be a part of the family. But let's see how that rolls out.
It's like they want them to be parts, but not be parts.
It's all politics, international politics.
All right, so that is all on NATO. Let's move over to the second trend. That is Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster. It is trending today, and this is why. Now, Ticketmaster is an American ticket sales and distribution company based in Beverly Hills, California, with operations in many countries around the world. And now they are trending because they paused Taylor Swift's Eras tour sales in France. Now, fans trying to purchase tickets to 6 of the pop stars' concerts faced long queues and technical issues before the company said that a new until time would be announced. Now, this happened as a result of a massive influx of fans that came out to purchase tickets, both online and physical. Now, France is not the only country facing this issue. Several other countries are cracked under the weight of Taylor Swift's ticket sale. Now, this is particularly an interesting topic because there has been conversations about the prices for tickets for various artists. Are they too much or are they moderate? Now, the prices for this ticket concert is around $200 with an average price of around $1,700. Now, Let's go back to the Renaissance tour. We talked about this several days ago. Renaissance tour is the Beyonce's World Tour that's ongoing, and it's been happening for a couple weeks now, and it's ending September. Now, the Renaissance World Tour proceeds for Beyonce could reach between $680 million and nearly $2.1
That's
billion.
a huge. That's
right?
a huge sum.
Oh my God, that's a lot. Now, and this figure was amassed using $200 per ticket at the low and end at $648 respectively. So tell me, Alex, would you spend over $200 on tickets?
Well, you know I would. I mean, I'm the person that always likes to have fun. So taking $200, that's chick feed for fun. I mean, and at this point, I think I'm considering switching lanes. So I think I have a good voice for music, so I could make these sales of tickets at this point. But let's get to the tweets and see what's going on there. JC Lobby says, I don't care about the website fiasco. I'm only mad that they decided it was okay to use dynamic pricing and no one said anything about it. Like, tickets went from $480 front row to $2,800 and no one cared. And this name, or this username, is really funny to me, and the name goes by Fortini will finally see Taylor Swift live. And he said, I really don't understand why Ticketmaster made the pre-sale easier by making you put your code before queue. That way, all these people with no codes wouldn't log in at the queue and it would be more easier for them. But I think what he's trying to say makes sense, because if you didn't have the pre-sale already, you wouldn't be able to get codes. So yeah, it's just occupying space. And just about the name, I hope he gets to see her finally. Aubrey, Rose, and Calamari said she doesn't care about how her fans buy the ticket and through who, as long as she gets the millions. And this is sad.
But you know, talking about this particular tweet, I think it's on the news that Taylor Swift gave a go-ahead to Ticketmaster because the prices are hiked.
Yeah, I think it doesn't only happen over there in the US. It happens across board when it comes to entertainment. This ticket sales really get hiked by companies or franchise that are given to the companies to sell this ticket, and it's not really fair talking about the fans.
Like the least fans should do is spend their money. That is the least and the most.
I mean, the fans are the ones that push your music out there to the world, so the least you can do is appreciate them with
comfortable for them as they go out to buy tickets or buy online.
Let's get 13. 13 said this store is going to be in the history book of entertainment industry. Certainly, it's already seated there, because I mean, with that sum for $2,800 for the front row, Taylor Swift is really making a huge in there.
That is a lot. And you considering your music career? I don't think so. But let's move on to the last trend. This is Al Nassr, and it's the last trend for today. Now, Al Nassr is a football club. It's a Saudi Arabian professional football club based in Riyadh, and this particular club got more popular after they bought Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, they are one of the most successful clubs in Saudi Arabia with 46 official trophies. Now, Al Nassr has been banned from registering new players in the ongoing summer transfer window after failing to pay a full transfer fee for former Leicester star Ahmed Musa.
That's our brother right there, Nigerian.
Right?
I had to come in there.
I mean, Ahmed Musa joined the club for £14 million, that is $18 million in 2018. Now, the World Football Governing Body has now ruled that the club has failed to pay Leicester £390,000 in performance-related add-ons. Now, having been warned in 2021 that they would be facing a registration ban if they did not pay up, it has now been reported that they've indeed been banned from adding players to their squad. Now, Al Nassr being banned from registering new players mean they cannot compete with Al Ittihad and Al Hilal in signing players this summer. They will be stuck with their same squad as their rivals continue to gain massive upgrades. Wow, that is a lot.
This is no good news for Cristiano Ronaldo, because he would definitely be looking at a very competing season for Al Nassr, and Al Hilal, talking about them, they also acquired new players like I think Karim Benzema is there now, and also N'Golo Kante. So it's going to be a really tough one in the season over there. But let's see what the tweet says. GP9 says, probably best not to flex wealth when one of your biggest club can't pay a 14 million pounds transfer fee in full. And President Tochi, Nigerians are always there, trust us. I mean, I think like we own this space. This is not a big deal. Al Nasri has already communicated to FIFA that this issue originated before PIF took over the club, and they will pay the £390,000 owed to the lift of the ban, and then they will be able to register players as usual. Armani said, imagine being a billionaire that is blacklisted because you failed to pay a small medical bill at your local clinic. This is a real it's a real one for me. I mean, the way this one hits, it hits differently. But Corbin Williams said there's a lot of other clubs that are being on player payment. Not sure why only Al Nassr are getting the ban. Emmett said, yeah, the league is also have a terrible track record for missing players' wages, tearing up contracts, and the PFA literally want players not to move there a couple of years back. But talking about this, I think the league has quite the wealth. The club has quite the wealth. I think it's just negligence. It's just basically negligence.
You know, there is no doubt whether or not the league can pay that amount. But you know, there's a question that has been on my mind.
What's that?
Yeah. So there was a time Mason Mount was he wanted to be bought, but it was said that I think he was pegged at £100 million.
Okay.
So you know, players sometimes they're trying to buy the players, but it's as if they're too expensive. So I thought about
too expensive. I wouldn't say that, because when it comes to football, the money is just there.
Definitely. So I thought about it. So when you go to buy phones, there's this thing called Easy Pay.
Okay, where you can pay instrumental. Yeah.
Is it possible for these players to be bought instrumental?
Okay, that's where the add-on comes in. Yeah. So you pay in full and then you pay add-ons later on. So it's still the same way. They have the way of doing this thing, but it's just your commitment to making this deal still. And I wouldn't take it from that angle. I would like to take it from the angle of the fact that Messi and Ronaldo fans will be like they're trying to reach on hot at this time. And Messi fans would definitely be happy about this improvement.
It will always come down to Messi and Ronaldo.
Definitely.
That concludes today's segment of social media feeds. We hope you found these topics enlightening and entertaining. Join us next time as we explore, as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of social media and its impact on businesses.
All right, until then, keep scrolling, keep posting, and keep sharing. Stay tuned for more exciting content coming your way. I'm Alex Oteri.
I am Chilu Tautilu.
Thanks for watching.
The world is constantly changing, and one of the most significant changes is the way that generations are defined. In the past, generations were defined by decades, but today, they are more often defined by shared experiences and values. These generation category cohorts are having a profound impact on the way that we live, work, and interact with the world around us. Join us as we discuss the generation categories and examine their impact on economy worldwide. Generations worldwide can be classified into 5 categories: baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Generation Z, and Generation Alpha. Each generation brings unique characteristics and influences in various aspects of society. Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2012, have become the largest generation, making them a significant force in the global economy. Businesses must cater to their needs to thrive. Generation X, known for their independence and tech savviness, are influential consumers who often adopt new products and services early. They are an essential target market for businesses seeking to stay ahead. Millennials, the largest generation in the workforce, are already shaping workplaces with their technology use, social consciousness, and diversity. To attract and retain millennial employees, businesses must be adaptable. Despite being the youngest generation, Generation Z is already making an impact. They possess digital fluency, a global perspective, and an entrepreneurial spirit. To appeal to them, businesses must be innovative and creative. Staying updated on the latest trends within each generation category is crucial for businesses. By understanding their preferences and needs, businesses can create more effective marketing campaigns and reach their target audiences precisely.
This generation, I can say the training from home. And most people, they focus on money. I want to make it. Without working, it's not possible. You must work before you can get anything at hand. And let me say drug abuse as well. Drug abuse follows it as well, because if you look at the range of those that are smoking now, it's very pathetic that you will say, are we not, don't we grow in this island? I was born and brought up on island, but you will never know. But age group is also hard to hit.
Then this one we are talking about is currently the society is more rotten than what we met it before. It's more rotten and there are no values. What you say cultural values now is zero, because there are no cultural values. Especially given the fact that we have come to what technology have brought. Instead of we, the black people or Nigerians, to embrace the technology with the sense of initiative, sense of kind of improving our well-being or assisting each other. We rather have to use it in the way of scam, in the way of defrauding other people.
Parents to have to be disciplined. If you are a disciplined parent, it is then you can inject that to your children. You understand me? In our time, our parents, they did not allow us to misbehave, either to disrespect any elderly or in the area, because I was grown up in a compound. I was born and bred at Agarawu, Lagos Island.
This knowledge also helps businesses improve their products and services. For example, targeting Generation Z might require developing mobile-friendly offerings. From the conforming baby boomers to the collaborative Generation X and the rule-disrupting millennials, each generation has its own expected behaviors and work-life dynamics.
I feel like it has helped it seamlessly. Like you can easily just sit at the comfort of your home, relax, and just at the press of a button, everything is done. And concerning work, I feel like it has really helped as well, because let's take COVID for instance, yeah. People really had to just stay back at home and do all of their things online and all and all and all. So if it's really necessary for you to leave your house and get things done outside by being like mobile, I think it would have been more hectic to move around. But now I feel like it has really helped.
We all know what the amount of money people are making from YouTube, TikTok, Instagram and the likes. Those opportunities were not there before. Now you can be on social media and be making your money. You can make millions. So there are opportunities, various opportunities that abound presently due to the advent of technology. So I think for this generation and beyond, the opportunity is just unlimited.
By comprehending the unique traits of each generation category, businesses can better serve their customers and stay ahead of their competition. Sheon Ajayi, Suk.
I'm sure you found the report on generational cohorts and implication in businesses very interesting. I'd like to ask, what generation do you belong to? Are you part of the silent generation? Are you of the baby boomers, Generation X? We also have the millennials and, of course, the Gen Zs. I wouldn't want to ask you because I know the answer. I know where you belong already. Fine. But we're looking beyond the generation and some attributes that they have socially to how they affect businesses. We have Sam Oroje, who is Director, Research, Policy Studies and Strategies, Suk News, in the studio this morning. Good morning.
A pleasure to be here.
Good morning, Sam. I know you have a paper published some time ago titled Paradox of Generations and Political Illiteracy and Leadership. But my concern now is business, not policy or leadership, as it were now. How can businesses effectively adapt to the changing preferences and values of different generations? Because, like we just watched there, different generations have different preferences. How can you, as a business owner, adapt and target them effectively for business growth and profitability?
Thank you very much indeed. I think before we go into the reissue, the impact in terms of business, we need to put generation into perspective. You have what you call transgenerational perspective. You have what you call intergenerational. So for businesses, there's no way you can survive with a particular generation in terms of what they have in businesses. So it's an aggregate of what you call intergenerational. You must find a way to have a blend, a mix. But the millennial and the Gen Zs seems to come to stay as the main drivers of modern business because they are technologically driven in terms of decision making, in terms of purchases. They are driven by tech. Therefore, businesses we target those generation because of the IT skills and other things that those generations ascribe to.
All right, now in adapting your business to fit or to take care of every generation, how can you do that? Not everyone can do research. Not everyone can go reading up. So what are the basic things that people should look at and know, okay, this will be fit for this generation? How do you now put that together and to come up with a service or product that will be appreciated and demanded by all of these generations?
I think that one is driven essentially by research. So advertising companies who are very good in terms of communicating brands, we have a responsibility to see what kind of strategic communication that fit into each generation and align businesses to each generation and how they can benefit for such businesses. So I think essentially it is driven by research and how do you position your business in line with the generation that you are targeting. So it's a mix in terms of branding and product positioning.
Okay, let's look at attitude to work. Millennials and Gen Zs, and I think there's Gen Alpha.
Yeah, but those are just coming up. The focus right now is on millennials and
Gen Zs. People say they have a different attitude to work as opposed to what the baby boomers and the Gen Xs would expect. And of course, we cannot take away from them their energy level and their inputs to the workplace. So as an employer of labor, what factors are we meant to look at just so that we can tap into the potential of this the millennials and the Gen Z, because they have a different attitude to work life? So speak to that attitude and what we can do as employers of labor so we can tap into their energy and maximize their potentials.
As employers of labor, what is important, even though the millennial and the Gen Z, what you call I generation sometime, have their own peculiarity, their sensibilities. But nevertheless, that peculiarity and sensibilities, employers must find a way on how to take advantage of such peculiarity, particularly their IT skills. So whatever it is, you must combine the three elements of understanding from a recruitment process. What are the attitudes, what are the knowledge, and the skill set. So you can't look at only one of those elements. The three elements must be mixed in such a way that you can get the best out of the generations that you just talked about.
In talking about business growth and sustainability, agreed that the millennials and the Gen Zs drive modern business, but how does that the generation a person belongs to impact on managerial ability?
No, essentially, I think in terms of the deliverable for impact, each generation has its own peculiarities, like I mentioned. What is important is that you need some experience in some respect, then you need some IT skills in some respect. So I think it should be a blend of one generation with the other so that you can even drive your business growth. But for this particular point in time, technology is the engine. So technology seems to be an enabler and a driver of businesses. So employers will focus on what can give a quick win to them, and technology is the language of today.
Okay, we are said to be political beings, political creatures, and the millennials and the Gen Z have their own political leaning. Which policy shapers would have to put into consideration before they can form policies, they can execute policies? What exactly is their leaning, the leaning of the Gen Zs and the millennials, that policy shapers should look into? Speak to their political leaning, essentially.
I think essentially it's still technology. For you to be able to design policy issues around those generations, then you must be thinking technology, because that is their language, technology.
So they give to the millennials and the Gen Zs using SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So what are the strengths, weaknesses of these two generations, and how can they convert them to opportunities for them so that they can both use them to the advantage in business?
Well, maybe before Sam answers that, we know that they are very optimistic, they are very diverse. Of course, like you said,
what generation are you talking about now?
That's the millennials, essentially. They're very optimistic. Can we tap into their optimism? And of course, they appreciate authenticity and social responsibility.
Is there a way to have a blend? Because sometimes it seems to be like a cold war between the millennials and the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs seem to believe that, they know it very much when it comes to tech, which is agreed. But the millennials seem to have things about the Gen Zs that they don't seem to like. They feel like, the Gen Zs do not want to, do not appreciate certain principles about life. So how can they come to an agreement to use the strength of one generation, match with the strength of the other generation, and then use it for business success?
All right, if you look at it from the principles of SWOT analysis, what is important is emphasize the strength of people and downplay the weaknesses. Like I said earlier, no generation in terms of classification from a sociological point of view that is unique to itself. So there must be a blend, a mix of each, the strengths and weaknesses of each generation so that we can strike a balance. So while we say the millennials and the Gen Z are technologically driven, they are quick in decision making, but then you still need the experience of the other generation to be able to strike a balance in terms of persuasion, influence building, and again, that's why you talk about intergenerational influence. That means between one generation to the other, because no generation can live in isolation of the other generation. So you need experience, you need technology, you need fast decision making, but you must strike a balance to have right decision making to sustain your business.
Okay, I wish we had enough time to discuss this and generational focus, but unfortunately we don't have that luxury of time. But I know that people say that the silent generation and the baby boomers have stability, which the world seems to be missing, because for the Gen Z, they have a very short attention span. Maybe at some other time we'll come back and visit that topic, okay? Like they say, that show is signed, sealed, and delivered today. Tomorrow is yet another day. Thank you very much for staying tuned from 7 a.m. till this point in time. My name is Ayo Jimmy. I'll see you tomorrow.
We must not forget to thank our producer. Big thanks to you, Madam Bumi Idowu, who has put everything together regarding the early exchange. And thanks, Sam Rojo, for being on this segment with us. And to those behind the cameras, the technical crew, thank you very much. Tomorrow is another day. Olaoluwa Awe is waiting to have you join her on Business Insights. I am Blessing Aichi. Of course, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.